Well, hi, everyone. I am TV editor Michael Schneider from Variety, and people ask me all the time, okay, what shows are you watching? What shows should I watch? Usually I just tell them to go away. I don't have an answer for them. But lately, I actually have had an answer for them. I've told them, go run to your Hulu and check out Reboot. It's a fantastic show. It's got an amazing cast. This cast is too good for one show. This should be like 3 shows, this cast. And so the comedy stylings of Steve Levitan is the brainchild behind this show. So there's too much good stuff on Reboot. So that's what I'm saying these days. Go watch Reboot. Pause this right now. Go watch Reboot, then come back and watch the rest of the channel.
Yes.
But for those of you who have already enjoyed the stylings of season 1 of Reboot, we are here right now to talk about the show with the cast and with the creator himself. So let me introduce you to our panelists. First up, he plays Reed on the show, who also, the show within the show, step right up, plays Lawrence. It's Keegan-Michael Key.
Hello.
All right.
Hey, huzzah. And she plays Bree on the show, but also the show within the show, Josie. It's Judy Greer.
Yeah.
All right.
Next up, we'll introduce Paul Reiser's dog in a second. Don't worry, we'll get to
I'm gonna go get my dog. I'm gonna get my dog.
Next up, he plays Clay on the show, and Jake on Step Right Up, Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, Judy.
Oh wow, it's starting already.
She is Hannah on the show, the one and only Rachel Bloom.
Yay, Rachel!
Oh my God,
Look
that's
at this.
amazing.
Oh, that's your dog?
No, it's my cousin. Yes, it's my dog.
Never showed Paul, you never showed us these pictures of your dog on. Why don't you send us a
No, when I sent pictures to Judy, she was somehow offended because my dog, she's by the way 90 pounds. I just pulled my back out.
Wow.
Lifting her.
Oh.
Did you ever bring your dog on the Tonight Show or anything? But no, but
Okay, she's fine.
That is the man who needs no introduction.
Nobody wins. She broke a bone.
Ladies and
I lost a
gentlemen.
testicle in the transaction.
It was, oh,
Mr.
okay.
Paul Reiser.
And my
Yay!
dog.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. My dog, because yes, there was a gardener next door and that seemed to violate her sensibilities. If you don't see the dog, this looks very foul what I'm doing. Actually rubbing the dog's head.
Okay, let's cut to Steve Levitan real quick. Cut to Steve. Cut to
Steve
Steve,
Levitan.
the creator and executive producer of Reboot. Steve Levitan. Welcome, welcome. Well, at risk of offending folks by going back to Paul immediately, let's
Been known to happen.
let's start with Paul, because Paul, you're having this moment right now in a career of moments. You're first off Mr. Streamer, because you're on every single streamer on every single show these days.
That's the rule.
Which seems between Stranger Things, Kaminsky Method, and The Boys. But Reboot feels like, I mean, this was your life for a long time, this whole sitcom world. But take me back to when you first were approached about Reboot and what you learned about this show and what made you decide to sign on.
And you'll probably get the same answer from all of us, but you get a script and they said, Steve Levitan wrote a script. I'd like to read that. So that's, already a yes. And then you read it and you go, well, this is great. I'm sorry, who's in it? Oh, so Keegan and Rachel and Johnny and Judy. Yeah, okay. When does it begin? So it was not a lot of hesitation, and the world was certainly fun to play in. And I was saying before, playing a showrunner who has all sorts of problems to figure out is so much easier than actually being the guy. So I'd be playing a guy with problems, but my problems were really Steve Levitan's problems.
yeah.
I had no problem. So, and it was such a joy, I know the writers were writing concurrently, but for us, it felt like the scripts were already really locked in and 95% perfect, at a table read. So that it's such a joy to jump in and start working on a script that you're not chasing your tail. You're not, oh, is this going to be any good? No, it's already good. We know it's good. It'll only get better. So it's
The headline will
Really
be
enjoy.
Paul Reiser 5% unhappy with Reboot scripts.
yeah. I had a few notes.
Steve, that's the danger of casting so many folks who have done their own shows, who have produced and created their own shows in addition to star their own shows. Is that they've all done your job. So
I have
they're
not
critical in that,
ever.
right?
I just was happy to be there.
They all of them except for Judy feel my pain.
Yeah.
I didn't at all.
She just lives in Candyland.
I do.
But these guys
Right
feel
over
my
here.
pain.
But Judy, nonetheless, I mean, you've worked with a lot of writers through the years. You've seen showrunners up close. You also sort of know this world. Of course, you know the sitcom world, you know the comedy world. So for all of you, this is sort of very personal as well. But Paul, going back to your character in, having known so many writers, known so many producers over the years, what have you taken away from all of them that went into this character?
I didn't have to do a whole lot of new research. This whole show felt so real, and it's written by people, Steve and his great group of writers who know this world. So there's a lot of things. You don't have to have been in show business to enjoy the show, but if you have been done a show, that you see little pieces of business and just little subtleties that ring so true. There was a line that I didn't even hear the first time when I forgot. When Dan comes into Rachel and goes, "Do you want us to break story or
Blue Sky the next episode?
Blue
right?
Sky the next episode?" Work, and I went, I don't even know what that means. Like Blue Sky the next episode. Wow. Okay. A big part of the fun in playing the role is in the relationship with Rachel's character. Is that yes, there's all this deep stuff as father and daughter, but it's also two creative people who co-run the show with vastly different agendas. And I've been in that situation too, not always a picnic. But the give and take, and what I think Steve has written so beautifully is to see how there's even a line where my character says, "You'll see, it doesn't look like it's going to work, but it takes a while for a room to gel." And then the room gels. And it's like, oh, there is validity to the old writers and the young writers and the third thing that they create together. And that, Steve has talked, I'll let Steve talk about it, but that it's not a send up. It's in many ways a love letter and homage to this medium that we've all worked in and loved and what it takes to make it work. And it's all these people and all these diverse characters.
Yeah, that's kind of fun to see the generations start to, at first they don't understand each other, but by the end of the first season, they're sort of getting each other's jokes and their inappropriateness and they're thriving off that. And I should say at the top too, I think a lot of the folks who are watching this are probably in the industry and so love sort of the reboot jokes, the specific industry jokes. But this is obviously a show also about these characters and how they're rebooting their lives. You see what Steve did there? It's clever. It's
Wait a minute. I didn't even realize I did that. Holy cow.
And of course, that relationship between father and daughter, estranged father and daughter, is sort of at the heart of that early on. And Rachel, again, you've been in creative partnerships, you created your own show as well. And so you've sort of been through this world. What's it like now portraying this world on sort of, the other side of it?
Well, easy acting prep. I didn't have to, Stanislavski anything. I can't, Paul has said this before, but like, what a delight to just be acting in something that even though I'm playing a stressed out showrunner, I don't actually have to do the work of a stressed out showrunner. So a really nice, relaxing spin on stuff that I'd done already. And it felt very real. And I was surprised. I mean, especially like, lines where it's like, let's blue sky the next episode, or I'd never heard of Fred Malamet's character at one point says, "Do you have a blow for the B scene?" I'd never heard the term blow, but I feel like that's something that's used more maybe in multicam. So I learned a lot. And I think also, it was the writers. If Rachel, were in a writer's room with the writers who are in this room that had their credits, I would have been geeking out a lot more. Like, because I think I have a reverence for TV comedy history that my character definitely doesn't have. So it was fun to play that contempt and then, I don't know, call cut and then talk to Larry Pressman, who played Jerry, all about the time that he was on the show Sybil.
Hey, this acting only thing that you guys are talking about, it sounds really great. When you get shows again as showrunners, can I be an actor in?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
like
Steve.
the sound
Well, you
of
want
that.
Jackass?
It's great.
Steve? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Anything but Jackass. Anybody else? Anybody else?
I think that's the one show we all want to see Steve on.
You don't
so-
have a lot of Jews on Jackass. I noticed.
Well, that's not true.
No, not counting the legal department, Johnny.
I want to say the history of the Jewish people is one giant episode of Jackass.
Yeah.
A lot of pain.
First season. That was first season.
I guess the Three Stooges were the original Jackass.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Absolutely.
Oh, maybe they're the ones, I guess.
go.
Well, since we're kind of going down this path right now, Keegan, sort of the same question for you, having also been down this path and having, been responsible for a show, but also star in a show. What is it like now to sort of be there acting and getting to witness it, but not having to worry about that day-to-day stuff?
I venture to guess that it's exactly the same as it is for Paul and Rachel. There are times when I have caught myself, maybe it's a control freak issue, but there's times where I've caught myself going, oh my gosh, we have to shoot. We've got to turn around on this. And then we have another thing. And then, oh, that's not my responsibility. Let me just worry about how to interpret this scene. It's like literally my only job on this thing is learning how to interpret this scene. But so you find yourself, or I find myself straddling those two things, but it's really been an absolute delight. It's been so glorious to work with these people. And I've been very fortunate in my career to not have a lot of the drama that exists in Reboot in my real life. In my real life professionally, I have not had to deal with that for the most part. And I'm just like, thank the Lord. It's just been great.
And Johnny, of course, let's complete that loop. Also, what is it like for you to be on a show about a show, having run your own show?
Well, it's a little more relaxing on this show. I don't have to worry about getting exploded or run over by a bull or
Season 2.
We
Look,
don't
you know,
have an ambulance waiting outside the stage.
Right, exactly.
right. So I don't get knocked out
You
once
did get hit
every
by a car.
month. So yeah, it's great. It's great just to be able to focus on my character and the scene. And I've been very lucky to work with this cast, and yeah, it's a completely different experience than what I normally go through.
But Johnny, you also, I remember you did you film the scene where you fell through a table, right?
Yeah, I got hit by a car and fell through a table, but it's not like
Child's play.
it's TV hit by a car. It's not like I've really been hit by a car before. It's completely different.
Well, Judy, how meta is it for you to play an actress on a comedy? And what sort of experience, history, memories are you playing off of as well in playing this character?
Well, I went into it thinking that I wasn't anything like Brie at all. And I thought, like, how am I even going to do this? Like, I don't have any idea what this person would ever do, or like why she would be there, why she would be doing like, and then I was like, oh, I am this person. I didn't understand. I was like, I guess I'm the one that's nothing like her character, but there had to be one of us. And then I was like, Steve, there's so many Spanx in my trailer. And it's like, I did ask for them, but then there's so many, and like, why did you have to put so many in? And then of course there's the episode where my character has like every Spank available in her trailer. And I was like, Oh yeah. So I don't know. It's just not feeling that meta. Maybe that's what's meta about it is, I mean, the only difference really is that like Brie took a really long break and I haven't ever, but and she dresses way better than me.
Steve, take us back to the germ of the idea, and sort of where this first sort of turned into a series, and then you could kind of take us through the casting process.
Oh boy, that's a long question. I'll try to boil it down really fast. The idea first occurred to me when I was still on Modern Family, when Roseanne blew up. And I remember thinking that must be a fascinating place to be today on that soundstage. And then that next step was, well, maybe that's interesting, a show about people coming back together after many years, whether it's in television or, someone going to a high school reunion, it's fraught. And then you add to it some, naturally dramatic people in showbiz types. And it felt like just a very good, solid arena for a show. Soon as I thought it would, frankly, thought somebody else would do it, but that didn't happen. So right when Modern Family was ending or close to ending, I remember I called Keegan and said, let's have some drinks, and I want to tell you about an idea I have. And I did, and he liked the idea, but of course I was, kind of a little bit away from getting that going. So I assumed he would, do something else or something would happen. And, but anyway, I started writing, and then, they went through a process because there were a lot of ways in. There's a lot going on in this show. If you think about it, there's the core central thing between, Gordon and Hannah, and that co-showrunner, father-daughter relationship. There's the old love affair between Bree and Reed going on. There's a lot of demons that Clay has been battling. Caleb's character, Zach, has grown up. And then, we came up with the idea of the writers and bringing 2 generations into the writers' room. So there was a lot to, get into there. I mean, immediately I could just tell you certain things. Immediately, when Rachel's name came up, I went, boy, she exactly this type. I doubt she'll do it, but yes, let's talk to her. And Johnny was a out of the box choice, I thought, because there were a lot more like traditional guys that you would think could do this role. But I just first of all, I always, I'll tell you, Johnny, I've never told you this story. I was at a party once. I don't think I ever did. I was at a party many years ago, 5-7 years ago, something like that, whatever it was. And we're hanging out in the backyard, and there was this particularly beautiful woman who was like this modelly woman, and we're all kind of hanging out. And she's not giving me the time of day, and that's fine. And all of a sudden, you walked in this party, and she just goes, yum, he is exactly my type. as you walk. I never,
and that woman was Judy Greer.
That always stuck with me. It's funny. I don't think I ever told you that, but it stuck with me that Johnny obviously has a natural charisma to him, but there was just something that I felt like there's something about it that felt more interesting. He could do this and it'll be more interesting than having just another, guy that we've seen do something like this before. Judy is just, as Paul and I once remarked to each other, she can just wring every ounce of comedy out of a scene. It's crazy to watch it. And Paul has just brought so much to this character. It's kind of hard to believe, because Gordon was much schlockier in the beginning. And Paul was a wonderful protector and guardian of that character, so much so that he made him human. You know, he could still represent the old guard, but he humanized him and made him lovable, which is something that is very hard to do. And for some actors, it's impossible to do. And when you have somebody who can make a character lovable, you can push that character as far as you want, and the audience will stay with them. So it has been a joy to be with this group. And yeah, I'm just thrilled to have them here.
Yeah,
Sounds
well,
like the same speech you'd make when you were leaving the show. I'll look at drafts. See ya.
Well, a couple of things off that. First off, with Johnny, you know, I think talking to a number of people who have been really impressed. I mean, everyone knows Johnny Knoxville, but to see your dramatic chops and to see what you're doing on this show, I don't know if you're offended by people like realizing what a great actor you are, or if that's sort of been, you know, what that's been like, and you know, people sort of discovering this side of you a little bit more. That, and also they Google Silver Fox and Johnny Knoxville.
Well, Michael, I'm just glad to be here, and I've never been given material like this before, so I don't think I've ever really been able to show this side of myself before. So I'm just very fortunate to be part of this show and ensemble.
Yeah, no, again, this group, Keegan, Steve mentioned that early on he was talking to you about this idea. What were your thoughts and sort of your early impressions?
One of my first impressions, Steve actually spoke to it. One of my first impressions was, oh God, we got to do this quick before somebody else does this. I was like with you, Steve, where I'm like, how has somebody not come up with this idea yet? And so with a very conspiratorial spirit, I was like, we got to get on this. And then the pandemic hit and we couldn't do anything. But I did say, I mean, I thought, again, you know, television so very much is about creating a world. And I thought this would be a wonderful world, and something that Steve's very adroit at is creating a world and then inhabiting it with amazing characters. But the world itself gets to be another character. And so that was really what resonated with me. And also, you know, like Judy, I have some similarity to this character. Here's a character who's a person who went to school and a classically trained actor and all this kind of stuff. I try to embrace the comedy part of it, but then I can't let go of the stuff that, you know, that I went to school for. And so I was thinking sometimes, I was like, Steve, I'm like, so the guy, he's a Shakespearean actor? Wait a second. What? Well, okay, so me then? Okay. All right.
I swear to God, when we were doing an interview, you and I for Variety, you were like talking about your character, and I was like, are you doing Reed's lines right now? Like, are you actually just regurgitating some of the script?
And the thing is, you caught me, because I was I couldn't even walk it back, because you just I couldn't even walk it back. I literally went, no, it's not Reed. That's this dummy.
I wonder why I thought of you so early.
Yeah. Our first meeting, you were talking about Dostoevsky and using words like indeed. I'm like, wow, this guy he's the real deal.
Indeed.
I was like, I just got to make it through the first day without saying Ibsen. I just got to make it through the first day without saying Ibsen.
I mean,
I didn't, Michael. I didn't say Ibsen. I said
no,
Chekhov.
I wrote it down. You said adroit.
I'm so like, I
gotta look that one up
I don't
later.
think I've ever heard anyone say it. I've only ever read it.
I wrote it down. I was like, I don't know what adroit means.
I, to this day, think people are saying Detroit badly.
I guess it would be very apropos for me of all the people to be saying the word adroit and Detroit.
And I know you're from Detroit, so he probably meant to say that,
yes.
but he got
the
stuck.
Adroit Detroiter, the adroit Detroiter, the adroit Detroiter.
That's
It's
gonna
a vocal
be the
exercise.
name of we're gonna make a comic book, a graphic novel.
We should have Reed do voice exercises in season 2. Adroit
The
Detroiter.
Adroit Detroiter.
The Adroit
Oh my God. Sorry.
He's
Sorry,
taking
Michael.
notes.
That will absolutely happen.
Well,
It will.
he can talk a little bit more about Reed, this character, because there is that sense of, you know, he really had these dreams. He left the show early and he really thought he was on his way, and just it wasn't quite the case. And he's really torn about coming back to this show as sort of a admission that the rest of his career never really took off.
Yeah, I think it's he's a very fascinating character, but he shares something, I think, also with the rest of the characters on the show, which is the whole show is about second chances. It's just there's a second chance for everybody in the show. But when you I really quite enjoy the variety of the different challenges that everybody's dealing with and how they're going to handle this second chance. And for Reed in particular, I think I don't know if it's Steve, if it's episode 5 or episode 6, but you know, Paul, when you and I have our scenes together, what I love is that sense of you shouldn't be. There's this kind of grass is always greener issue that Reed has, and he almost despises the fact that he's good at what he considers hackneyed material.
Mhm.
Which, you know what I mean? Like it's almost as if he never thought about it until Gordon mentioned it. Right. And then he's shocked in that episode when Hannah tricks them into going into the bar and hashing things out with each other. I think it's really well executed and written that he has to then kind of grapple with this idea that maybe it's okay to be good at this thing. But I told myself, and in my life, in my professional life, I told myself, I'm only good if I do this. But the thing is, he's quite adroit at doing this.
Nice. Use it in a sentence.
3 times
My
and then
car
it'll be your
was made
own.
in Detroit.
Yeah, we made that car in Detroit.
The car was
So-
made, right?
It's he's really quite an interesting and fun character to kind of sink your teeth into, because he's always dealing with this this kind of fractious way of looking at his own life. It's like he despises the thing that he actually may have been put on earth to do, just to be funny and you know.
I just saw Judy write down fractious.
Yeah, I did. I wrote down fractious. I am learning so much on these Zooms, you guys. I loved that scene so much when I watched it because I feel like myself included, but also so many of my actor friends and writer friends and like any friend in the arts, like, you know, we go into it. If we make it as far as we've made it, then we are talented. We know this and we're grateful. But like there's always a thing that you think you can do that somehow you think like what you are really good at like isn't enough or something. And when I was watching that scene, it was so beautiful because I was like, yeah, like he should be happy. I should be happy. Like, and then it was so funny when Paul's like, and you said you were speechless. He's like, well, if I knew that's what I mean, sorry, I don't have to regurgitate the whole scene. But I mean, so many of those moments, I thought that was a really beautiful moment. And it was like a nice lesson to learn or to, you know, be reminded of as an actor too.
Well, Judy, speaking of you know, your character, you know, what do you make of Bree? She's obviously also sort of you know, the things didn't turn out the way she thought they would, you know, as royalty, and she's sort of reassessing things too, including her relationship with Reed, but also just in general her place in this business.
Yeah, I think with Bree, and please tell me if I'm so wrong, Steve, but I guess I felt this after watching, so maybe it doesn't count, but I realized like what Bree is less desperate for this career, but she's more desperate to figure out who she is and to learn like who she was and who she is now, who she would have been had she not separated herself from what seems like the earth for 15 years. And so her struggle, it felt like was like just making weird decisions and then like following them through and like trying to just like be independent and learn like, what am I as a woman, this age, this career, and to be back with people that for better or for worse, like will like cushion her. I don't know. That's what I got to. And it was like, really was really fun to play her. I really ended up falling for her.
Johnny, let's talk a little bit about Clay. I think one of the amazing moments of this season is when he gets mixed up with Callum Worthy's mom's character.
Oh my God.
It's so
Harry
wrong,
Kinney is the best.
Amazing.
so inappropriate, but so amazing. But Clay in general, I mean, he's trying. He's really trying. What do you make of this character, and what were your thoughts in playing him?
Well, I think you're right. He's got a lot of demons, but he's doing the best he can. And what he doesn't show you is just as important as what he shows you. So, yeah, you can tell he's hanging on by a thread, but he's just, man, he's doing the best he can. And I think when someone's holding that much energy and that big of a tornado in their head back, hopefully it's interesting to watch.
It's very interesting to watch.
Yes.
And also, I know we keep doing. There seems to be, I'm sensing like a pattern here, Michael. But there's a great scene where Johnny, and now I'm going to do it. Where Johnny, remember, there's that moment where you're with Calum, and you just kind of you take that brief pause before he's about to leave, and you're like, you want to
Get a burger.
You wanna get a burger.
Oh, I love that
and then
moment.
it's such a lovely little moment. And then I love how you cut it, Steve, with shotgun.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
driving separately.
Oh.
But I love those moments, Michael, where the writing has given Johnny an opportunity to dramatize these moments where Clay's trying to overcome or trying to pull himself away from the eye of that tornado.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
trying to not be so selfish. You know, he's doing the best he can.
I feel like for him, for Clay more than anybody, the Step Right Up reboot was a lifeboat.
Mhm.
That, you know, his life had really not been going well, the arrests, the drug and alcohol stuff, everything else. And then, you know, he can look back on that time in his life and think that's the closest thing I ever had to a family, was being on that show. And now, miracle of miracles, I'm getting another chance at it. I gotta do everything I can not to blow it. And, you know, I feel like the stakes are highest with him, that if that show, you know, were to go away, that Clay could crumble. And so I think it's that's an interesting place to be.
Yeah, you know, we run into it with the Jackass guys too, like where, you know, when we're making a film, it's out of control and it's crazy, dangerous things happen, but everyone has structure. And they need that structure, and Clay needs that structure. Right? It's like the line you wrote for me. It's like I need somewhere to go during the day, otherwise bad shit finds me. And that's Clay.
It's right. You know, you hear so much. I mean, we all know so many people who've been in the program and or you know, alcohol or exile, but it's easy to miss the day-to-day, minute-to-minute struggles that actually entails. And you see it in Johnny's performance of, oh, every minute is hard, and like around every corner is a temptation that will lead. You know, I have a friend who can remember the days that I took this sip in 1993 and I lost the next 18 years. I was like, yeah, I went down that, and as much as it's in the writing, you see it so beautifully, and you care because, you know, Johnny's character Clay is not trying to be mushy sensitive. He's like, if anything, he has a facade of toughness, but it's like it's all covering this very, very real vulnerability and fragility that's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, and like Steve was saying, now he finally is back with this family, which was probably the closest thing to structure and family he had. It was, you know, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
The other, you know, the relationship that I think we're probably rooting for the most, of course, is Hannah and Gordon, and sort of seeing that evolve over time. Rachel, you know, how would you describe Hannah at the start of the series? And you know, in some ways, she's you know, almost doing this show out of this reboot out of revenge in a way, or just, you know, sort of, you know, she's she has a very different idea at the start of why she's doing this, and that evolves over time.
I mean, at the beginning of the show, she's just a ball of hatred for her father. And what's great is like, there is nothing more primal and essential than the relationship between parents and children. And so to be abandoned by a parent, it's stronger than even being abandoned by a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's just so fundamental to who you are. And I think that abandonment is so central to everything she thinks about the world and herself. It's my theory that she wrote the script as like a therapy exercise. It's my theory that her therapist was like, right, what if you wrote a version of your father's show? And she's like, wait, is this good? And then secondarily, she's like, oh, I could get this motherfucker. Like I could heal myself by like saying fuck you. And it's really fun to, I mean, I think the arc of the season is her softening towards Gordon. And the challenge is, how do you play that? How soft? And I would ask Steve questions. Okay, how soft is she in this episode? Where is she at with him? So that by the time you get to that final episode, and she stands up for her father. And also, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the first time, if we kept that take, it's the first time she calls him dad. And it's
in a very off guard, quick reacting moment. It's the first time.
Dad, and it's like no one it just kind of comes up, it bubbles up, and like, oh, you wouldn't have even saw that coming from episode 1. And so playing someone going through forgiveness with the kind of original sin, the kind of person who originally broke her heart is I mean, there's nothing like more interesting to play as an actor.
Yeah.
There's also the idea, you know, Gordon may not have known it, but he is now welcoming the chance to heal her and amend for his sins. You know, it's not only that she was abandoned, but she was abandoned by me, who then made a serialized, fictionalized, sugar-coated version of it about these better new kids. And it's like, oh my God, that's insult upon injury. But, you know, going back to what Johnny said about his character, it's like, is that we're all doing the best we can. And it's really, really, in every case, is going to fall short of what we wished we were doing. So it's like, that was the best father I could be. And yes, I fucked up. And yeah, and there was, I forget where it was, but there's somewhere where he does explain a little bit that he stayed away because he knew that your mom was, bad mouthing me and that it would be easier, which was a cop out. But yeah, but also I think that this is for each of them a welcome opportunity to spend time together. It's like the show is not as important as, wow, we're getting to spend 12 hours together every day. And it is an incubator. I mean, a show environment, it is a fast moving molecules, and you bump into each other at greater speed and intensity than you do out there.
And Paul, what do you make of Gordon's journey through this first season? You know, when we first see him, I think we're supposed to hate him because we're seeing him through Rachel's character's eyes. But he's not what you expect, and quickly is charming, and you quickly kind of, find yourself liking him. And
it's fun. You know what I'm saying about Steve? She was surprised that Gordon shows up. It's like, would she have not secured the rights or inquired?
Well, I think that the idea was that the studio that produced it said, yeah, like, let's do this. And I think in the beginning, someone maybe came, in my mind, somebody came to Gordon and said they want to reboot this, and he said, if I'm going to get, and we'll pay you this. Okay, and he at that moment didn't feel like coming back to work, but then you were sent the script. Finally, because they had to run it past you, and you saw it, and you saw her name on it, and you saw what it became, and that got you out of your house.
And do you think that, forgive me, I don't mean to be avoiding your question, Michael, but do you think that Gordon jumped in because he wanted in part to redeem himself with his daughter?
I think that ultimately they both really wanted that.
Huh.
They do. I think
Right? They definitely
I think
that
Hannah wants it more than anything.
Sure.
But it's like in a like a buddy cop movie. It's easier to bring two very different people together when they're working on a common goal. Like we got to solve this crime, or
Yes.
we got to find this bad guy or whatever. Because by doing, it's like walking dog. You have two dogs that they say if you have two dogs that are like they're going, you take them in a walk together, so they're walking in the same direction, and then they stop barking at each other and fighting. And I think that that's what this show represents, is like it allows them to stop talking about them and their relationship all the time and take part in a goal. We're going to make a show again, but that has its own problems too, because they do have different tastes. So
and what's interesting to play too is that, he's trying to make changes and amend and address her in a different way. She's an adult, she's not a child. But at the same time, his default is one of authority. It's like, it's my show. I own the show. By the way, that was the line where I just say, I've been doing this a long time. You fucking trust me. This is going to work. It's like, you may not love it, but it's going to work. It's going to get us out of here. And so that is his, if there's a superpower, it's like, I know this world. I don't know the daughter world. But I got to trust me on the 25-minute comedy thing, because I got that. But he's also learning, like, oh, so you can't say Eskimo anymore. I see. You can't say what? Okay. But that's actually some of my favorite stuff, is also in that writer's room, to question the young writers. And it's like, when Dan, says, "What talks louder?" I said, "No, I heard." It's like defending his clearly aging self. It's like, no, I can hear you. I just don't know what you're talking about.
It's one of the things that I enjoyed. It was sort of it was a discovery early on, like, who are these writers going to be? And then the whole idea of, cross-generational and all that, and, woke versus old school comedy and those things. But it has occurred to me that, it really, when you're talking about things as recent as like Chappelle's monologue on SNL, or Chappelle even being on SNL, and some of the writers I heard, being upset about that or whatever, that, I think that in that writer's room, we can take things farther than maybe just about any other show if we choose to, which I plan to choose to, because we can discuss it. We can discuss why that's not okay to say, and why it is okay, and why you're a hypocrite, and why isn't it okay you can do this, but I noticed you didn't make that joke when so-and-so was in the room, and and I think that maybe by talking about it and digging into it, we can understand each other a little better.
But that's really a microcosm of the whole show. It's like, of everybody understanding the other person's side. It's like that. Well, that's how you heal the world. That's how you get closer. So it's like me understanding my daughter, and Hannah understanding her father, and having a different, respect. Oh, there's a really funny but horrible scene where I say, you got to talk to, actors like they're children. They're little performing monkeys. And she's like, that's so insulting. It's like, yeah, but I'm not wrong. And it's like, but
I enjoyed making an actor say that, by the way.
And we go, yeah, writers.
You heard Paul Reiser. Reboot is healing the world.
Is that what he said?
That's the headline.
No, I didn't. What I was saying is that
It could.
looking at somebody else's perspective.
I think what he said is that Reboot is saving 5% of the world.
Call back.
That's a good start.
Wow.
Well, I think we do have to end it there,
Is
unfortunately.
the world healed? Okay.
Yes,
You did it, Paul.
Our job is done, kids.
You and Gracie.
Yes.
But congratulations, everyone. It was a fantastic season 1 and such a joy. Again, a masterclass in comedy, in TV, in entertainment, in acting, and all the above. So again, next time someone asks me, what should I watch? Reboot is at the top of my list. So again,
Thank you.
Steve,
Thank you.
Keegan, Johnny, Paul, Rachel, and of course, Ms. Judy Greer.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Gracious.
Michael.
Thanks,
We
everybody.
appreciate
Thank
it
you.
very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike.
Michael, thank you.